be one of the most boring jobs in woodworking ever, or at least it is for me, and probably because I'm rubbish at it as well. So and I've got so many chisels and they always need sharpening. It made me think, like, if only there was like an automatic machine that could just do it. Like, and I looked on online to see what there is out there, and you've got the usual whetstones and whatever, and now I wanted it to be really automatic, and started thinking about it, and like in my mind, what can I make that I just sort of put the chisel in and it does the work while I'm doing something else, and then sort of stop the machine and pull the sharp chisel out. So been thinking about this for quite a while, and I've decided I'm going to try and build something. I don't know if I'm going to complete the build or not, but at the same time I thought, let's document it. And I started late last night with some ideas which I'll show you now, and maybe through the process of this video I'll show you how I've got along and if I finally achieved the result that I wanted. So the basic idea is I get a stone to move backwards and forwards, and with a chisel placed sort of at a certain angle, the stone will sort of rub on the chisel, something like that. Now I'm going to try and build this with just bits that I've got at home for now, and this will probably be a prototype. So to begin with, I'm using this draw rail. I've only got one, otherwise I would have liked to have two. Then plan to sort of attach a piece of wood on there like that. Now this goes, move that out of the way, this goes like that. Then let's just stick this one on, which is the sort of Chinese waterstone or whatever you call them, on there. Now we've got this motion going. Then we need something to hold the chisel while this is going on there like that. So that's the idea of the basic build. So as I said, I started messing around about 8 o'clock last night, and throwing a few ideas together, cutting a few little bits of wood, which I'll show you what I've done so far, which is not too much, and then the rest will it's going to sort of unravel for you as well as for me within this video. So the next part of this sort of machine that I was going to make is something to hold the chisel in place. So all I've done is found a few bits of scrap wood and put bolts through them with butterflies on the top there, and just screw these little pieces like that. Nothing too clever, as you can see. So the idea being is I slot my chisel through there, tighten it up, so that's now held the chisel in place, and then coming back to the most important part of the thing is now this thing is then holding the chisel while it goes in place. Then I found these. I actually had these just floating around. These are offcuts or something, and I thought, oh right, you know what? They could go there like that. This will then somehow get attached to there, like that somehow. Actually, I'll get a couple of clips. Right. There you go. So what I also want is to be able to swivel this at a correct angle, or whatever the desired angle is going to be, and as I say, then this bit just moves backwards and forwards, sharpening the chisel. Now, so there's that part of it, and then the other part of this build is going to be working out a mechanism with a motor which will bring this backwards and forwards. I did initially want to do build the project using these linear tracks, the sort of things you see on CNC machines, which are sliding rails, and they move without any friction, unlike this. Here goes my phone. Give me a sec. Right, I'm back. That was a bit of a long one. I think I was talking about linear tracks. Yeah, so basically saying they glide a lot easier than something like this would move. I mean, this is sufficient for a prototype for now. Now, the other thing which I've been thinking about is what kind of mechanism I'm going to use to create this reciprocating action. And again, there is a sort of mechanical way of a motor with an arm on a cam, a bit like a windscreen wiper mechanism. That's sort of very mechanical, and that would work fine. But in my mind, I wanted to use something called stepper motors, which from what I understand of these stepper motors, you program them and you decide how much it goes one way and then it automatically returns backwards. It's more an electronic than a mechanical method of doing it, but I'm still trying to sort of learn about those. And so for now, I think I'm going to go for the old windscreen wiper method. I think I've got a motor laying around somewhere, so I've got to try and work out what I'm going to do with that too, and just start getting building with this thing. I've got this little motor. I think I took it out of a cordless screwdriver, if I'm not mistaken. I've got no idea how good it is, if it works, and definitely don't know what voltage it is, but I do think the miniature cordless screwdrivers work on something like 3.2 volts. So what I'm going to do is plug it into this device, and switch it on. Bring the voltage right down, 2.8 volts, I'm sure that'd be enough. See if it works. Yeah, it works. Fine. So the next job is to work out what I can put on the end of that, so that I can create an arm which is going to sort of move backwards and forwards. But before that, I think I'll work on the actual rail side of things to begin with, and getting it mounted onto a piece of plywood, and then work out where this is going to go. And I think I'll work on the motor thing last, because that one's going to be the most difficult part. I'll begin with screwing this rail roughly into the middle of this board. I haven't measured it. I don't think accuracy matters too much at this point. Going to be a noisy machine, that's for sure. So next I need to attach a piece of wood on top of the rail like that. I might use this scrap of MDF. I can always change things afterwards, so I've got to somehow attach this to there. There's not enough holes on there, so where I want it to be, so I may have to drill a few extra ones. So now I've got to come back to this little motor and decide how I'm going to connect this up to create the reciprocating action. And problem being is that where we are there, the spline on there is so small. It's got this little cog on there as well, but it's so small that I don't know what I can do to attach on to anything that small, or even this either. This is loose, so I don't know how I'm going to be able to use that. So that's a bit of a problem for me. I needed something a bit thicker on the end where I can then, I've got some sort of purchase when I want to stick a wheel on here. But what I've come up with after rummaging around is I found the remains of the cordless screwdriver which I broke up. And this is the unit. It's like one of those, it was something like one of these really. And I don't know what broke inside it, but it doesn't work anymore. It didn't work, that's why I took it apart and saved all the bits. Well, you can see it inside there, and if I zoom in a little bit, you might be able to see it's got these gears inside there, which when this motor goes in along with this little piece in on the end, that connects up with those 3 gears from the centre and then turns this piece. Now this piece being a bit bigger, I can now then possibly do something with it, but problem at the moment is getting this motor to stay in place. So I can sort of get it sort of fitted in there, but it wobbles. I think what I may resort to doing is a bit of a bodge, but I might try to centre this in there like that, pour some hot glue around the edges there, and hopefully that'll keep this motor central like that, and then I can go about mounting this onto the base of the unit and think about how I'm going to connect a wheel onto this. Not the tidiest thing in the world, but once that cools down, that should hold the motor in place. So for the next stage, I now need to attach a wheel onto this, and what I've come up with is a piece of perspex. I've just cut it to a nice round shape, and somehow I need to attach that onto there. So what I've come up with so far, so I've got like a hex drive in there, and I'm thinking if I put this in there and maybe chop that off and carefully try to drill into the end of it, and then I could sort of more or less screw this piece of perspex into that. Well, that was a crap idea. Cut the bit off and centre punched it and put it in my drill press and couldn't drill into it. Just there's no way I could. I don't know why, probably maybe my drill bits, I don't know, but they are good drill bits, but I couldn't drill into this. It's probably some sort of hardened steel, so I gave up on that idea. In the end, what I come up with was I made this shape out of a piece of wood. I've shoved it in here and drilled a hole in it, and I've now connected my bit of perspex, and it's really off. It's really off. It's quite bad. I'm going to connect it up to the motor now and show you, and I'm going to see it for myself for the first time. But nevertheless, we're calling this a prototype, so it doesn't mean to say it's the shop bought version yet. Let's see how it goes. Right, as I say, I think it's just going to really spin out of true, but yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, not what I had in mind. Don't get me wrong, this would still do the trick, but it's just really bad. I'll have a think about it. I want it to be good. I've come up with a plan B. So what I've done is I used that little bit which I cut off earlier, and I shoved it in a vise together with this large washer, squashed them together and got it to fit into there. It could come off if I pull it at the moment, but to give you an idea, if I go to this little tool here, shove that in there, Again, not totally true, but nearly there. The idea being that I take this, try and get it as true as possible, drill some holes in there, then attach this to this, and it'll all be done with nice little screws. Then I've got the bit which goes in here, and then I can work on the other part of the mechanism, which is a bar from here connecting to the actual machine. Go on somewhere like that, it will sit like that. Then we'll have a bar which will come off the top part of this plastic piece here and attached to somewhere on here, and as that spins around like a locomotive, it'll be causing this to go backwards and forwards. Anyway, that's kind of the plan. I'm heading in the right direction. It's now it's almost 6 o'clock time I went in, and I'll come back to this tomorrow. But for you it won't be tomorrow, it will just be like in the next second, but for me it'll be tomorrow. You know what I mean. Right, I'm back, and before I started filming I've been working on this little thing. I'll just show you quickly what I've done. I've tacked a couple of welds on there behind there, just now it holds it insecure, and then I stuck this whole thing on my mini lathe and tried to face the front of it and the edges of it to try and get it to become as true as it possibly can be. And there's always going to be a little bit of play on this spindle here, so it's never going to be perfect, but it's a lot better than what it has been so far. And if I show it with this now, you can see it's still out, but it's so much better. It's workable. So I've just put a couple of screws in there with some nuts on the other side, which holds this in place. I've just tested it out and it's pretty good for someone who's pissing around in their own home garage and doesn't have all the right equipment. So all I need to do now is, that'll go in there, is now connect this up to the rest of the device and see if we can get some sort of crank working on it. Right, so for the last 20 minutes or so I've been tinkering around, and I've worked out a good way to connect the motor to the rest of this little unit here, and it's looking pretty good now. So I've grabbed a scrap piece of wood, made a hole in it, put the motor through like that. It's just wedged in at the moment. I haven't fixed it in any way. Found these weird looking brackets, they work, and fix them to that as well. So now the motor stands by itself. Next stage is this now goes on here, and I've raised it enough so that it clears this bar, and with the rest of the thing, if I can just show you, there we go. So now we've got the motor, we've got this, and all we need to do is, or what I need to do is connect some sort of bar from here to this thing here, and then we've got the action going. And just to show you, I just plug this motor in, you can see how it runs. There we go, got the running motor and sharp chisel. That's where I'm going with it. So I'll think about how I'm going to, or what I'm going to do to connect the bar to there and get this reciprocating. Right, it's another day and it's freezing out here today, hence why I'm dressed like this. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot about getting this reciprocating action going and gone through all my little bits of junk and couldn't really find anything. and so I gave up. Last night I was on the internet and I saw a few little fittings which would be really helpful, so I decided to order them, and they won't be here now until Monday, tomorrow, some point, probably like 8 o'clock at night, so I'll lose tomorrow. That's just given me time to think about other issues that I may have moving further along on this build, and one of them is, once I've placed the chisel in the holding clamp like this, obviously you've got the stone moving underneath it. Well, once it's taken away whatever material is in contact with the stone, then it's no longer really touching the stone. You may need it to go, you know, whatever that slight degree more to actually get a sharpen. And I was wondering how I could do that. So I came up with an idea. Now, I don't know how well this is going to work, but the idea being is that I'll put 4 springs on that there. Then when I put my stone on there, when I press the chisel down, I can press it down ever so slightly, not as much as that, but just enough so that there will be constant contact with the chisel as it's moving backward and forward. I literally just thought of this idea, and I thought I could just do this for now. I think that what that will involve would be me drilling and sinking these springs into this piece of board, which I don't think I mentioned I've changed from the previous piece because I wanted a slightly thicker one. So if I sink them in and just sort of allow a few millimetre, because it doesn't need much of a spring, and sinking them in will also sort of stabilise the springs as well. As you saw it there, it was sort of wobbling like a jelly. And here it is. So we've got the 4 springs set in there. And now when I put the stone on, it's got a little bit of an upward force, so that when I place this on there, and eventually sort of, I mean, I've still got to finish all this bit off as well, but the idea is that I push the blade down onto the stone, so now there is a force on the chisel coming up from the stone where it's pushing it up against the blade, so it will keep cutting it until eventually it's used up all the material that you've sort of allowed for on the chisel, and in which case you can then readjust the chisel and bring it back down again. Yeah, this solves quite a big problem for me, other than the one which you're probably all talking about is, oh, you're going to just wear a channel in your stone. Yeah, that is going to be an issue, but who knows, some future one might have a blade which moves across like that all the time as well, but yeah, that's not for a long time yet, but yeah, I'm happy with that so far. So the other thing which I've got to work out is how am I going to get this chisel to move into the different angles that I'm going to want to file the chisel at. Typically it's 30 degrees, and I think was it 25 degrees and then a 30 degree leading edge, if some people want to do that. What I'm thinking is to fix these ends in with a pin at this end, and at the back end here is to have some sort of a guide which will eventually sort of come through here, maybe like a little arc, whereby if I can do this, just get rid of this chisel, so that this could be fixed like that and sort of slide down around like that, and then tightened up with a wing nut. And I think that worked pretty well. Yeah, this is what I've got to decide to do now, and I think I've got to be geometrically really accurate with getting those holes and cuts exactly the same on both of these bits of board, otherwise the chisel's going to be off. I'm using self-locking nuts on here so I can tighten them up just enough so that there's a little bit of movement on this part here, but not too tight so that it's too stiff to move. That's about the motion I need. And so there's the first part of it set up. Next, what I'll need to do is shove a pencil in there, a smaller pencil in there, and draw the arc which I want to take out material from. So then that will be where I'll put a wing nut on from the other side, and it will then stay in place. So I've got these pieces of wood stuck together, and I need to cut out this arc shape, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to just drill a series of holes, which is a bit crude, and then just try to file it out nice and smoothly. Now that's got to go through both of these. I'll give that a try. So now, after some drilling, some chiseling and some filing, I've got those arc shapes. They're not the neatest thing in the world, but they'll work for now. So time for me to put this thing all together and see how it works. So there's the chisel clamp finished, and all I've got to do now is connect it to the base. So I've screwed this in, I've set up my chisel in here at the right angle. This isn't connected yet, I'll do that once I've got the bits and pieces that are I'm still waiting for, but I just thought I'd give you a kind of demonstration of what it should do. So at the moment, so as I say, the stone is on a spring, so there's a little bit of force on the chisel there. And then the idea being, once this motor is on and turning around and connected to a crank there and whatever, it will be going like that. I'm wearing out a groove in my stone, but like I said, we'll discuss that at another date. But yeah, that's where I'm up to at the moment. There's no more I can do at all until I get the bits for this and connect it on there. And it's literally that, then it's done, it's made. Then it'll be just seeing if it actually works. So the bits I've been waiting for finally arrived, and I think these are going to do the trick. So this is what I got. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a ball bearing with a hole through the centre in a metal casing, and what's good is they've got this threaded area here which I can tighten onto my threaded bar, put one at either end, and then connect from the motor to the carriage. I think let's work out how long I've got to cut this threaded bar and connect it up and see how we go. I've cut the bar, connected it to the disc here, and there's the motion. All I've got to do is now connect this end to here and connect the power source and try it out. Right, I've managed to get it all set up. It's not brilliant, but let me show you. So you can see I've set the bar up on here. This mechanism works really well, and when I switch it on, I'm going to have to hold the motor for a moment. This is what one of the problems are. But it's creating the sort of reciprocating action that I wanted. Probably not going as far back as I want it to go, and I can adjust that. I can adjust that by possibly moving this out to slightly further out on the wheel, which should give it more travel. I haven't calculated that bit very well. Something for me to think about, but nevertheless the general thing is fine. The other thing is, as I turn the whole unit around, is that the motor is just, it's only wedged in here, and sort of the torque is sort of pushing it backwards and forwards like that and popping it out. So I'll have to work out a way of securing the motor in tighter there anyway. I don't think this motor's ideal for it, but anyway, it's not getting warm, but I'll work on this bit for now. Then I'll put the stone on and give it a proper test run and see if this thing actually works. So I think I finally finished it. I've added on a few extras and swapped a couple of things around as well. I'll just show you, and then I'll show you how it works as well. So first off, I added this extra bed on there with MDF. I've sunk in a couple of magnets, which you can see there and there, and that's because I decided to use my diamond stones. And the great thing about the diamond stones is they don't wear grooves in them like the stones do, these old water stones, which are really good anyway. And all I've got to do with that is just put it in place, and that's it. That stays where it is. It won't slide about when the chisel's getting sharpened. And the only additional thing is I added a couple of retainers here and here and at the back as well to stop this bed from moving out of the way. And you can see I've been using it already. See the marks? Yeah, it works. Just press that in there like that. This is all without adjusting everything at the moment, just get it working so that I can show you. And now let's switch it on. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Not bad for a retired old estate agent, I'd say. I'm well happy with this. So there you have it. You can see it actually works. It's a bit clunky and quite noisy and could be made better. And I'm already thinking about version 2 and probably using aluminium rather than wood. I definitely need a new motor, and my old power supply there keeps playing up anyway. So there's a few things I want to do with this, and I reckon I can improve it and get it into a really tight working machine, and possibly not so noisy either. I'm really pleased. This was a really good fun build. I enjoyed doing this. I enjoyed the challenge of sort of working out what to do next and how to sort of achieve the certain results that I wanted. That's the fun of building things. This isn't, you know, never going to go on the market. Well, unless Veritas want to get in touch with me and we could do some sort of deal between us. I'll sell you my plans, my secret plans, if you want. But no, this is just a bit of fun. Am I going to use it as a chisel sharpener? I reckon I will, actually. I do think I'm going to be using this. But like I say, what's the old saying? The fun is in the journey, not the destination. Yeah, that's the same thing with this as well. But I do hope to use it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to see the Mark II.